Yesterday I set my alarm for 10 a.m. but woke up at 7, just because I was so anxious to get to the park. When I got there, I felt alone. There were thousands of people, yet still I felt alone in the sense that no one else knew about this dark secret right under their noses. They were all enjoying their vacations, minding their own business. For me, however, this was no longer a vacation. First, I went to Haunted Mansion to look for Harold, but as I expected, he wasn't there. So I went to Pirates of the Caribbean. I couldn't find him there either. I didn't want to wait until right before 3:30 for him to show up, because it might be too late to stop him at that point. Instead, I decided to ask as many cast members as I could if they knew where he was. It took a lot of asking, but eventually a guy named William told me he usually works with Harold on Haunted Mansion, but today Harold was working at Peter Pan. I made my way over to the Peter Pan ride and finally found Harold. He was at the exit. Must be his thing, I guess. Speaking to guests that were getting off the ride. Immediately he noticed me and looked right at me. He looked happy to see me. It was an odd expression, like he was hoping for me to show up. I began ranting quietly so others wouldn't hear. Although my voice was quiet, my words were loud. Harold, what the fuck are you thinking? This whole DSP thing is a cult. You can't just end your life just for the hell of it. Don't you see how crazy this all is? We don't do it for the hell of it. There's a reason behind each of the deaths, or most of them, at least. He responded. Well, what's your reason? Same as yours. At this point, I had no clue what he was referring to. I continued to ask him questions after he said that, but he just ignored me and went back to greeting guests. After a while, I gave up. For the rest of the time till 3:30, I just sat at the quick service place across from the Pirates ride. I spent most of the time just staring at people. And I know it sounds weird, but I was just intrigued with the idea of how none of them probably knew about the DSP. They were all just enjoying themselves, creating happy memories with their families, and having the time of their lives. I looked at the cast members, too. I wondered how many of them knew. I wanted to expose this cult, but didn't know the right way. A way Disney couldn't cover up. A way where I didn't have to film a stranger's corpse. But I couldn't. Eventually 3:20 rolled around, and still no sight of Harold, so I decided to go on the ride to see if he was inside. Luckily, there was barely a wait time. I got onto the ride itself around 3:29. I loved this ride so much, and I wasn't ready to have it ruined for me. Our boat went into the intro part where the iconic "Dead men tell no tales" line was being said by a ghostly pirate voice. After riding through the cannon battle, and market, and the auction, etc., we got to the prison scene. This part is known for its famous scene of the inmates trying to get a key from a dog by whistling at it. People on my boat were taking pictures. Well, I just kept checking my watch. I noticed my watch said 3:32, but I still hadn't seen anything. Then I looked up. It seemed everyone else thought it was part of the attraction, but I knew it wasn't. In the cell was Harold. He was sitting down against the wall, a gun in one hand, and blood on the other. Blood was splattered all up the wall. All the little kids around me had no clue they were staring at a real corpse that had died just moments ago. If a gunshot went off, I didn't hear it. I figure I was in the loud cannon scene when it happened and the sound must have blended in. But then I thought, what about the boat that was in front of that scene when it happened? Surely they must have seen it happen. There are many boats that go through the ride at a time, so there was no way no one saw it. Once I got off the ride, I saw a commotion going on with some guests and cast members. They were all saying, "That is extremely inappropriate for a children's ride," and yelling at the cast members. After listening in for a little while, I figured out exactly what they were talking about. The group of guests there were the ones who saw it happen. They saw Harold shout something about the DSP, then put a bullet in his own head. It seemed there was only 2 groups of people on the boat. No kids saw it, thank God. The cast members were all claiming it was part of the ride being tested today, and that they would bring the guests' complaint to the higher-ups. The conversation went on for an hour and a half, and eventually, the cast members convinced them that it wasn't real. I'm sure not all of them were convinced, but enough were for the conversation to die down. Since it was pretty dark in the jail cell, I guess they didn't get to see it happen fully, or else they would have for sure known it was real. The problem is, for those who are still unconvinced, will probably not succeed if they speak publicly about it. I'm sure Disney has had to cover this sort of thing for a long time. The DSP isn't particularly new. People have probably seen bodies and either were convinced that they were fake or hushed by Disney. Now I know what Harold was talking about. I know what I have to do. Harold's attempt to expose the DSP failed. Most of these suicides happened after hours, but Harold wanted to put on a show. He wanted it to be a public event. He wanted it to make the media, to finally expose the DSP. I went on my phone and checked the comments on Harold's recent posts. It was all people hating on him. All the other posts of people announcing their death day had comments of encouragement, but his were all hate. People telling him that his family would pay for what he was going to do. People were threatening him. They were aware of Harold's plan to expose them. If Harold didn't end his own life today, it seems that these people were willing to end it for him. While I was checking the forum, I realized I received a message. It was from Harold. He sent it at 3:25, minutes before his death. It read, "They see and hear everything. You made a mistake talking to me about DSP in public. The cameras, microphones, everything. They heard it all, and they will come for you. It won't be a lawyer from Disney. No, it'll be someone from DSP. And they'll kill you. I know what I have to do now. It's time to expose the DSP once and for all. Mine will be public, much more than Harold's. It'll be right in Tomorrowland for all to see. At 4 p.m. tomorrow, I'll let the world know the truth of this cult that is ruining lives. It's my last mission. Tomorrow will be my death day.